Eric Dorward here at the Spartan Rocketry Club, and I'm continuing my build of the Rocketarium Gadfly. So, in the last video we put the little fins on. It is time to put the big fins on now. I'm hoping this will be pretty easy and straightforward, but I guess you never know what with fins and all that. So these should not be too bad because there's an incredible amount of gluing surface area on these things. I am going to just quickly sand the back of this a little more because it did look like I didn't get quite all of the laser cutting burn marks off. If there is a downside to these Rocketarium kits, it is the manner in which they cut them with the laser. It doesn't seem to be, well, it seems to be make it look kind of like a sawtooth pattern, which is not great, but it's sanded off and it shouldn't be a problem. Alright, so I'm going to do the usual business here. I did clean out my glue nozzle since the last video, so this is going rather nicely so far anyway. And yes, it is not the nozzle that comes with this particular brand of glue, or honestly any wood glue that I have ever seen. I do not care for the nozzle that comes with your average bottle of wood glue. So I, at some point, repurposed a bottle of white glue, swapped out the nozzles. So this is, it's much more detailed, or it allows you to detail much more nicely, so much nicer, whatever. So that's why I use that. Otherwise, the wood glue, actually I think I got it from this one right here. This is not craft glue. This is huge. It is very hard to use that with any accuracy whatsoever. Alright, so I am going to put a second very thin layer of glue on, like I would typically do here. I'll try to keep this thin. If there is a downside to cleaning out the nozzle, it's that the glue comes out a lot faster, which is not generally a downside, but here potentially could be. Alright. Alright, now, of course we can't lay this flat anymore because there are already fins on it, but hopefully that's a non-issue. I'm going to line it up with my mark here and roll it forward, and hopefully I will get the pointy part where I sanded right in the middle. And hold this for a little bit. Now, because this is so long and it's not exactly the world's strongest wood, you could end up deforming this so that it like bows out and doesn't lie straight. That is the primary concern here. So do be careful of that. That's probably enough holding. And this should, and I say this, fingers crossed, this should set more quickly than the little fins because there's a lot of glue and not a whole lot of weight. Alright, so now it's time to check. So we already have the other fins in place, so we can adjust this to make sure that it is in line with them. So it was not. And then I'm going to check to make sure that it's not bowed, because that would definitely affect the aerodynamics pretty significantly. It looks alright. Doesn't look perfect, but it looks pretty good, and it is in line with the other fins, so I'm pleased with that. Now it's just time to repeat the process. Usually, the phase where you are lining up fins with other fins, I find that to be easier for the most part because I usually do the hard fins first. But even if I don't, you at least you don't have to wait to check all 4 fins at the same time for alignment. You can check mid-build, because if you did the other fins right, then the alignment for those should be set already, and all you really need to do is make sure the fin you just attached is in line with the previous fins. So, that's kind of nice. It makes your life a little bit easier. These fins also typically are easier to attach, knock on wood. I'm just kind of inviting disaster by saying stuff like that, but whatever, I'm going to keep saying it. Alright, that's probably enough for the next layer of glue. This is an amazingly long fin, I have to say. This is one of the longest fins I believe I've ever worked with. Which is not really a problem. Like I said, that just means it has a lot of surface area for the glue to bond to. Alright. Line it up. Right, and then forward onto the other line. Oops. I adjusted, I knocked it back a little bit. I'll have to check where that is. I think that looks better. So we'll give this like 30 seconds or so, and then check alignment again. So you can see it's not hard at all to bend, that's not quite on right. To bend the wood. It's not all that strong. So you can definitely end up twisting it, which would not be great, but that's something that you should be, oh yeah, well, it's not aligned, but I think it's also bent a little bit. This is exactly why we have a look here. I did end up too, in adjusting things, the front end of the fin came loose a little bit. I suspect the back did as well. Yep. One of the dangers, though, of having a fin this long is it's hard to make sure that it is perfectly flat. Even sanding it like I did, it is hard to get it perfectly flat, which means that the front end, like in this case, the front end is a bit more sanded than the back end, so it is popped off the tube. So I'm going to have to hold it down for a little bit. While that is annoying and not great, it is something that, when all this is dried, if it is delaminated a little bit, if it's come apart, it's something that you can at least patch over with a nice solid glue fillet. But I'd rather not have that happen at all things being equal. So I'm going to try to deal with that ahead of time. And oh look, the back has completely come off. Yeah. I suspect the middle of this is less sanded than the front or the back, and that is the ultimate problem here. Let's try it again. I'm going to try to hold down the front and the back this time. A little bit more. But again, oh yeah, and I can see the other fin too. It's starting to peel off at the front. Well, you're just going to have to go a little more slowly, I guess. Which, it's not a problem in the long run, since we don't really need to worry about all 4 fins aligning, which is the kind of impetus for doing it quickly when you're just attaching a regular fin, because you need to get them all attached quickly enough so that they so that you can get the alignment right. So I'm going to try holding this one down for another 30 seconds or so. same deal here. Yeah, that's just not smooth. I think that's the ultimate problem. Oh my goodness, look at that. Well, again, if this ends up, and I suspect it probably will, pulling apart, even after, I've given it encouragement here, the fix is just cover it up with a decent glue fillet. It's not going to be, it's not ideal, but it's not a horror show either. It's not the worst thing that could possibly happen to this. This is actually going to be, I can't even get this to stay down. I suppose the other thing I could do is consider just tacking part of it with CA glue. But I'd really not like to do that. The CA glue, well, it's strong and it bonds fast, but it bonds very permanently. So if you get that on wrong, you are not adjusting it. Well, let's see how I'm doing for alignment with this. It's bowed a bit, but otherwise it seems to be in line. I think, oh geez, well, that could happen too. Let's get it back on. I think this video is only going to have 2 fins in it, and that's fine. It just is encouragement for me to go back and sand the other 2 down a bit more to make sure, or at least examine them to make sure that they are actually pretty smooth. Alright. Well, this stuff does, the fact that it's so long, it does tack pretty quickly, although not to the degree that I need to actually hold down the front and the back, because this is really bad. I'm just going to have to hold this. I'm going to have to hold this for quite some time, and that's probably not worth watching. So, yeah, we'll leave this here. I'm going to stop the recording and just hold it probably for like a good 15 minutes or something. I could try to weight it, but I don't think that's going to work terribly well. So hopefully, after 15 minutes, the glue will have tacked really hard and basically set up, and then I can move on to the other 2. Alright, so thanks for watching, and I'll see you in whatever happens to come next. See you then.